listening to Second Wind with Joyce Bufford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for being on Second Wind with us today. You know, Second Wind was really created for you, just for you, because you are going through a transition. You're trying to find you after perhaps a bad time in your life. So I created this for you after I had gone through my own transition to help you re-identify who you are, to inspire you to dream bigger, much bigger than what you are, and to inform you about the second wind, the importance of finding your second wind. Now, you know, I do this through offering wonderful guests that can tell you stories, that can tell you how they transitioned and how they play their life. But it's always really important to know you must have support and connections whenever you are going through something difficult in your life. So if you're here because this is a connection for you, thank you for being here today. So let me tell you about our guest today, because he is going to have some answers for you, I'm sure. Now, my guest is Dr. Andrew Hahn, but we're going to call him Andy. With his permission, we're going to call him Andy today. He is a licensed clinical psychologist and the founder of Life-Centered Therapy Institute. He grew up in Belmont, Massachusetts, went to Harvard College. Is that the same as Harvard University? Are those the same thing?
Yeah, the college is the undergraduate of the university.
Got it. Okay. And then got his doctorate in Hahn University University in Philadelphia. Now you're throwing all those Eastern names at me. I'm in Texas, you know. So there we go. But I love this when Andy said, if anything makes me unique, it is my constant longing to marry my understanding of life with bringing more love into the world. In terms of my life work, I am so passionate about it, and I feel so lucky and grateful because I truly do get to see small miracles every hour as the people I work with become freer of suffering and freer to live lives of joy and alignment. Nice statement. Like that.
I like it too.
Yes.
Who wrote that? I was like,
who wrote that great statement? So how does the Life-Centered Therapy Institute, that's what you have created. So how does that work? What is that? Explain it to us.
I'll keep it very simple. It's a way of healing trauma so you can live the life of your soul, basically. That's what we do. That's in a nutshell what we do. We do a lot of other things too. Mm-hmm. And the premise is really simple. And I think anybody can do this. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years. I keep learning things, but you can learn it in a few minutes and it will be really helpful, which is simple. There's only one reason people come for healing, which is something couldn't be handled and sort of integrated. Something couldn't be taken in stride, handled and integrated. If you could handle everything, you would have no trauma. So trauma is just simply that which can't be handled. Mm-hmm. And so all healing is mastering what can't be handled. All right. So it's very simple. Why do people go? Something couldn't be handled. What are they going for? To be able to learn how to master what couldn't be handled. And it's very easy to say how to do that, which is that in the moment that something can't be handled, a sensation is born, literally born. Just like Joyce is born in a moment, it's born in a moment. So let's say you're having a panic attack. Let's suppose you're in my office and a motorcycle backfires, you have a panic attack. And I say, Joyce, when you're having the panic attack, what's happening? And you say, my heart's beating fast. Then I say, Joyce, I'm going to say something funny to you. You're not having a panic attack. Someone whose name is heart beating fast is having a panic attack. Your little toe is fine. It's not having a panic attack. heart beating fast as having a panic attack. Now, your problem is that because something couldn't be handled, you unconsciously have identified with heart beating fast, and you believe that's who you are. But it's not who you are. It's just an experience self is having. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose to become heart beating fast. That's going to be your new name.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you go from being the one who unconsciously identifies with heart beating fast to consciously identifying with the self who is choosing to become heart beating fast, like an actor who's choosing to enroll themselves in a play or a movie or a novel. And you can fully enroll yourself, but you know it isn't who you are. It's just an experience you're having. And so what you do is you choose to become it, and then you bear witness and hold whoever heart beating fast is. And let's make it simple. Let's suppose 20 years ago, you were in Afghanistan and bombs are going off around you and you can't handle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you then get stuck in that moment. And in that moment, heart beating fast is born, let's say, because that's where it crystallized. And then you live it out over and over and over again. And you may have repressed what happened in Afghanistan. You may not know, but you're still living it. And whenever the motorcycle backfires in this case, you're not in 2022, you're in 2004, and you're still living it out. But the second you choose to become heart beating fast, you say, oh, I know. It wasn't me who was having the reaction in 2022 to that motorcycle backfiring. It was me in 2004 who couldn't handle all these bombs going off and thinking I was going to die. Oh. Except now you've remembered who you were in 2024. So you could say a part of you got dismembered and had a life of its own as part of a community. So you could say who we are is all multiples, and the ones who are traumatized show up as discomfort. So you could say every discomfort you have is simply some being who's stuck someplace. And every time that you suffer, which just means you have any reactivity or judgmentalism or anxiety about anything, pretty much, if you found the body sensation and said, oh, this is the body sensation, and you choose to become it, you will be free. And that's all you need to do in a nutshell to heal, is choose to find a body sensation, choose to become it from the inside out, so you have fully chosen to be it, and then let it share its story and let it ask for whatever it needs. And if people just did that, as opposed to saying, I hate you, headache or whatever, so I'm going to take a pill, but I'm going to ask you what you've come to share, and I'm going to be you by choice, worlds open up in terms of what your real problems are, and worlds open up in terms of ways you can resolve them. That's life-centered therapy.
Okay, so I'm assuming everybody has past lives that deal with trauma. Is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
If you believe in past lives. If you don't believe in past lives, then you have something else. You could call it personal mythology, or you could call it an undreamed dream, or you could call it something imaginal. I don't care what you call it, but the most elegant, the most powerful crystallizing story wouldn't be a story about you. It'd be a story about somebody else, however you understood it. I would say, in part, well, I happen to believe there are past lives, but your belief systems are none of my business. As long as you get healing, who cares?
Right.
But yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, I do a lot of work with what people call past lives, except for the fact that I don't think they're in the past. Because if they were in the past, heart beating fast wouldn't be here. So you could say it's happening right now. We just have crystallized it into what we call a past life. But it's here right now. So I'm not regressing you. I'm just having you find somebody who was someone you identified with, in 1872 in Missouri.
Well, you have a question here, or you stated in some questions, what is life and what is self? Life and the self. Did I state that right?
Sure.
Yep. So can you tell us about that?
I'll tell you what my belief is in my experience. My belief is life is a living being just like we are. It's an evolving living being. Its name happens to be life. Your name is Joyce. Its name is life. It's a living being. And You could say that who we are to life is what cells are to us. And I'll tell you what I mean. We have about 3 trillion cells, right? About 3 trillion human cells. We have a lot of other cells that are kicking around inside of us, but we'll just start with the human ones. There are 3 trillion of them about. Now, we know 2 things about those cells holographically. The first one is on the surface, every one of them is different. You could search around forever and ever and ever and look at all of them. You'd never find 2 that were exactly alike, just like us, just like snowflakes. But we know underneath, they all have to be on some level the same. There's the same template. In cells, it's called DNA. In us, it's called soul, which I think soul is to us, you could say, as DNA is to cells. Now, so what that says is we are mystical cells in the body of a being called life. Now, we know that every cell in our body holds the whole template. The way we know that is if you have enough information, you could take one cell from Joyce and create a duplicate Joyce. In fact, they did it with a sheep called Dolly in 1998, right? So we know that mystically, who we are is everything. Everything is there simultaneously. That's how you can take one cell and create its whole universe. And we're like that. And our job in life is to realize that we believe we've identified with the surface, in this case, Joyce or Andy. But that's not who we truly are. That's kind of an illusion. It's a surface illusion. So I'm not Andy. You could say I'm Andy-ing. I'm having the experience of being Andy, but I'm not Andy. I'm the self that's experiencing something called Andying, right? But the second I'm traumatized, I believe I am an identity. I believe I am the surface. I believe I'm matter, at which point I believe I'm Andy. But I would just say that that's a trauma. So I would say anything you identify with is a trauma. It's not who you are. Who you are is the one experiencing everything you identify with. And when you realize that, you come to this really stunning revelation, which is on the surface, we're all differentiated, or to put it differently, each of us has a unique role to play in the evolution of the whole body, which is life. But underneath it, we have a different role, which is to realize that we are everything in life. So we're a trinity, which is that we are life. Everything we're in relationship with is life, right? And we're in relationship with life. So we're 3 things. We're in relationship with life, we are life, and everything we're in relationship with is life, which means on that level, we're all the same. We just believe we're different because of identifying with the surface. Our role is to do 2 things in life. The first is, the soulful role is to say, if I was truly free of all things that couldn't be handled, what would make me feel most alive? When I'm just truly in relationship with that which is life, when I'm aligned with life and I say yes to life, what gives me a sense of being alive, being fully engaged with all of life? That's one of our roles. The second role is to realize that I am all of life. Because when there's nothing I can't say yes to, I can say I'm everything, right? I'm Hitler and I'm Christ. I'm antibiotics and I'm a bacteria. I'm a little green woman from Alpha Centauri. I'm me 500,000 years from now. I'm all of it. That's who I am. And if I could say yes to everything, then there'll be nothing to be anxious about, including non-existence. And so we are afraid of non-existence. We think we'll get wiped out. In the same way, it'd be like if we were a raindrop and there was an ocean and we believed we were that raindrop, we would do everything we could. We would use all of our energy to try never to drop into that ocean because we would cease to exist. But gravity pulls us there. And you know what gravity is, of course, it's love. Because what is attraction? So the ocean keeps saying, come and be with me. You are me. I am you. But we fight it like crazy And so we spend our whole life trying not to be who we are because we're afraid we would cease to exist.
Mm.
But if we could truly be who we were, then we would say, I am the ocean and I am the drop. And what role does that drop play when I know I'm both at the same time? And that's about life itself.
Oh, Andy, I need to take another course here. You're interjecting so many things that people that come to you, are they aware of this that you're saying here? Are they aware of this, or is that your teaching?
They're aware that they're suffering. Why are they coming to me? They have autoimmune disease. They have chronic pain that nobody can do anything about. They have major depressions. They have anxiety. They have a dream, but it's not happening. They say, I want to be like, a major podcaster and help women have a second wind, but something's stopping me from doing it. I don't care. I don't care what they call it. And then I'd say, okay, I'm going to keep this simple, right? As soon as there's something you can't handle, you're stuck. You can't be free. So I'm going to what I'm really offering you is freedom. And the way to become free is to face the thing that you couldn't handle. How do you do it? You find it. Its name is sick to stomach or headache or pain in chest or I can't breathe, whatever its name is. But it's not yours. It's not sick to I'm sick to my stomach. It's sick to stomach. That's its name. Your name isn't Joyce is to Andy. Joyce is my you are my Joyce. It's like my name's Joyce. Its name is sick to stomach. And all you have to do is choose to become it. Now, what we need to know is three things. The first thing is we want to find the most elegant thing you need to work on, right? Otherwise, you're getting a symptom of something else. Because once there's something that can't be handled, there's all kinds of symptoms, each of which, by the way, is a clue to the thing that couldn't be handled. So the thing you think is your worst nightmare is actually a clue to try to remember who you are, which is an interesting thing. It's an invitation to remember something, right? Well, I'll tell you what I mean. Let's take our guy again who comes in and he has the same problem, right? Well, motorcycle backfires, he has a panic attack. I'm going to tell you, this time it's a different story. This time, it's not 2004 in Afghanistan, it's 1918 in Germany, okay? And I find that out. I say, this didn't crystallize in your lifetime, Joyce. It crystallized in a past life. And it could be your past lives come through blood and they come through energy. So it could be that you were one of your blood ancestors or a bunch of them, at which point I call it genealogical, or it could be that you were an energetic ancestor, at which point we call it karmic, okay? Well, let's suppose it's a karmic past life and you were a man in this other lifetime, and I find out that it's a karmic life. And I say, okay. And I find out your real problem isn't reactions to loud sounds, it's betrayal. And I can do that because I can do a kind of determining of what the real thing you need to work on is. And I find out your reaction to loud sounds isn't the problem, it's a symptom of something else. And the something else is betrayal. And I find out your real problem is you believe you betrayed a trust, okay? So this time when you have the reactions to loud sounds, I find out we're not going to work on the loud sounds. We're going to work on betrayal, and loud sounds is a part of that, but it's not the biggest deal. It's betrayal, okay? And I find out that it didn't take, I have to find where it started because everything after that is just an echo, trying to help you remember the first time, right? So I find out, you may have a story about Afghanistan, but I find out, no, that's just on the line of something. That's not where the thing started. It started in what we call a karmic life. So I say, okay, this time when you're having your panic attack, I'm going to have you focus on I betrayed a trust, let's say. And then I say, what happens in your body when you really experience I betrayed a trust? And you say, this time, my throat's closing up and I have a terrible, strange pain in my foot. In fact, I didn't even think to tell you about the pain in my foot because I didn't know that you could work on chronic pain because something fell in my foot and no one knows why I have this chronic pain, but now my foot is really killing me, okay? I say, fine. You're going to become pain in foot and throat closing up. That's your new name. And you become pain in foot and throat closing up. And this time you tell me a story. You say, I've been wearing this strange uniform. And, I'm in this war and I'm leading a group of men and I'm not paying enough attention because, like, I'm sort of anxious. So I'm sort of like, I've lost my focus and I'm like distracted. And suddenly I walk them into an ambush and I'm watching all these bombs go off and I'm trying to scream at them to like watch out, but nothing's coming out of nothing's coming out. Right. And like, I'm watching all of them. The bombs are going off. They're getting wounded. They're dying. And I'm watching all of this and there's nothing I can do about it. And I take out my pistol and I shoot myself in the foot because I'm feeling so guilty and I want them to think that something terrible happened to me too. And I get hit by the bomb. And then they come and find me and they drag me off and like they take me to the hospital. Okay. So that's the story this time. Now, you know what that person comes in with? They come in with reactions to loud sounds. They come in with OCD and this belief that if they're not paying careful enough attention, the sky will fall and everything will be destroyed, which will literally be true because you're always literally telling your story, right? They'll be saying, I'm distractible. I have ADHD and I feel really guilty about the fact that I'm distractible, right? They say, every time I have this chronic foot pain, which is because, I accidentally dropped something on my foot and no one knows why I have the foot pain, but I still like have pain and I still have a limp. And every time I want to be a leader, I sabotage myself. Mm-hmm. Now, if those things only were that person's story, and we find out his story and we say, okay, you have to make amends with those soldiers that you weren't watching. And let's say you go and you find a way, you find their souls and they say, look, we had to learn that we had to watch out for ourselves because we were too dependent on you. And then you say, oh my God, I have this issue around people being over dependent on me. And but we had to learn that we had to watch for ourselves and you were human. So we forgave you 100 years ago, at which point you go, oh, I feel so much better. And then you know what happens? If that's the only reason, your chronic foot pain goes away, your OCD goes away, your ADHD goes away, your reactions to loud sounds go away, and you no longer shoot yourself in the foot when you're going to be a leader. If all of those things were only that story, which is very unusual, but does happen occasionally, at which point things look miraculous.
Yeah. So
the chronic pain, and they can all go away, really. What?
So who are the people that come to work with you?
So you want to know who the people who come to me are? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Anybody who can find me, they come to me.
You talk about self-acceptance and the importance of that. Mm-hmm. Many times I can think of my own, the self-acceptance is really a challenge because we don't want to accept some of those flaws that we have in ourselves. Mm-hmm. So how is that addressed with your work?
First, we wouldn't call them flaws. We just say they are.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But, because we'd be accepting them. We just say, okay, I have this quality, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's not me. It's an experience I'm having. It's one experience. It's not who I am.
Right.
I have a flaw, but it's not who I am. Right. Mm-hmm. I'd have no judgment about it if I could really be there. How do you have no judgment about it? You choose to become the flaw, which is a body sensation if it's a trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have judgment about it, by definition, we know it's something that couldn't be handled and taken in stride and integrated. So if you're calling a flaw, is really part of a trauma structure, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say, become the thing that you have the judgment about, which in this case would be, oh my God, I don't care about anything and I don't care about anybody and whatever. And I'd say, okay, well, when you really allow that, what happens in the body? And you'd say, oh my God, I have this heavy feeling in stomach. Then I would say, of course, well, you don't have a flaw. Someone whose name is heavy feeling in stomach has the thing you call the flaw, except they're just living a story. From their point of view, the flaw makes total sense. So let's suppose you drop all your attention into the flaw called, heavy feeling in stomach, and you say, oh my God, I'm this 3-year-old boy and I'm making my father a special gift. And I feel so I I want to give him this gift, but he's like pushing me away and saying, get away from me, and walks out the door and drives off. And I say, I don't care. And then you come into me 22 years later and say, you know what, I have this terrible flaw. I don't care about anything. And every time,
Yeah.
I want to do something special in the world. It's like I lose all my interest in anything.
Right.
I have this terrible flaw. No, your terrible flaw was a choice you made at that point to protect yourself from something worse, which was the excruciating rage, outrage, and despair you felt when your father pushed you away and wouldn't accept your gift.
Yep.
So I don't care was a protector, because you couldn't let yourself feel that. So the thing you think is your worst flaw is actually your greatest protector, that you asked to be here but you forgot you made a choice. So we're going to make a different choice in that case, because in that case, you're reliving a protection, not the trauma itself, right? The trauma was your father pushed you away. The protection was, I don't care. But then you forget you made the choice, and then you say, you know what, Andy, every time I think I should be caring about something, I just don't care at all. I have this fatal flaw. And I find out, no, that wasn't a flaw. That was the thing that saved your life. I can find all that out in about 5 minutes, about 5 seconds, actually, because I use kinesiology or muscle testing, and I find out the thing you think is your problem was, in this case, a protector from a worse problem. And I can find that out fast. And then we say, sick to stomach, heavy stomach, that he thinks was, your worst nightmare. What have you come to share about, this story about protecting him from something? Where's that beginning and what's happening? You become it, and suddenly you say, oh my God, I'm 4 years old in my basement, and I'm making my father a gift. And now we know why you have that. And you say, well, you made a choice to become, I don't care. You want to make a different choice? Just choose to bring it outside of you, heavy stomach. And that's the 4-year-old you making a choice to protect yourself. Just channel light into it until it's infused with love. And then find the you were before that was like so enthusiastic about everything. Then you say, oh my God, I'm going inside myself and I see this little boy who's so exuberant and he's dancing around like he's happy about everything. And I say, put your hand here and invite him out and say, why don't you just expand and become me, and to overflowing, except that I've gained a lot of wisdom in the last 20 years, so you can have all my wisdom too, and we can become wed, you and me. So people don't have flaws, they just remember. They just forget they're remembering, and they call it a bad name.
Oh, yeah. Do you believe that we actually do choose the life we live?
Sure.
You do?
Yeah, we choose it.
Oh dear.
But we choose it for good reasons. I mean, in the sense that we choose it. Why? Because
For the growth?
everything is about evolution.
Yeah.
We insofar as I mean, the problem with saying that is then people take it wrong and say, well, you did, look, you chose this, so like, and then they blame you, as opposed to saying, oh my God, everything makes sense. If you think of it as a play, you don't say, oh my God, what's the matter with you? You say, well, you had to learn something. We all had to learn something. You chose the best role you could so that you would evolve and life would evolve, right? There's no judgment about it. But if you don't do it that way, then why would I choose these ridiculous parents? And the answer is because you had something to heal and they had something to heal, and it was the best choice everybody could have made. So you say, could you come and be in my play? And I say, yeah, I can, because like out of everybody in the universe, we really fit together well in terms of the things we're trying to do in order to heal and grow, so that we can live our truth, and we can live the truth that I am you. Right? So anyway.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the 1 Hour Miracle, the book that you wrote with Joan Beckett. Is that Dr. Joan Beckett?
She's not a doctor, but she is Joan Beckett, and she's wiser than me. So if I'm a doctor, she's a doctor in life. I'm just a doctor from a degree. So she's a master. She's a master. She's a master. I'm a doctor. There you go. That tells you.
Well, tell us about what that book will get us. I ordered it, by the way, because I thought, oh, that sounds good. So tell us what that book was created for.
It was created because we want to share what I've shared with you simply with everybody, so that you could begin, if you wanted to do your own self-healing, and to know that the key is in the body, and that if you could be mindful in relationship to your own body, you would know what was true for you, because you wouldn't try to figure it out with your head. you would just know it in your visceral knowing. And then you would know, once you knew that, you'd say, now that I know what viscerally is true for me, what do I truly desire if I'm in alignment with that? So you find your own inner knowing. And so we talk about what I told you about life, and then we say, here's how people get stuck. Right? When there's something that can't be handled, we describe all of that. And then we say, now, how do you free yourself? And the answer to how you free yourself, I gave you in the simplest way that anybody could do right now, which is anytime there's a discomfort, ask it what it's come to share before you take a pill. Become it from the inside out. And anything you're suffering about, what is suffering? It means you can't say yes. Now, saying yes doesn't mean anything about passivity. It just says, I'm going to say that this is what is the case. And if I don't get in the way, then I won't get in the way, and then life can evolve. Because the only reason life doesn't evolve is if there's something I can't handle and I judge it, and then I'm stuck there. So my job is to get unstuck, right? How do I get unstuck? I say, I am the one who gets to bear witness and hold the one who's stuck. It isn't who I am. And then we tell you how you do that. We teach you all about something called muscle testing, so you can find out what the real problem is and where it originated and what that person needs. And then we spell out for you in great detail, all the ways people get stuck. And we tell you about these stories about, well, if you can find out, is your real story not that you're having reactions to the loud sounds, but that you betrayed a trust, or that you had a traumatic death, or that you were neglected, or you did the neglecting, or did whatever. So, and you can find out, what do you want us to work on? Do you want us to work on the thing I think I'm supposed to work on? Do you want me to work on some part inside of me? Do you want me to work on some living being that's part of a community? Like in this case, the soldier in 1918 or whatever. Do you want me to work on sort of my core experiences and my personality, and how my personality protects us from experiencing a fear? And you can sort of determine exactly what the thing is you most need to work on, where it crystallized, and what you need to do in order to resolve it. And that's the whole book in a nutshell.
Well, if people want to buy it, they can go to Amazon or wherever, and it's there.
They can buy the paperback, the 1 Hour Miracle. They can buy it on Kindle. They can buy it as an audio tape. If they want to learn how to do this, they can go to our website, which is Life Centered Therapy. We do online trainings, and we teach you how you can do it for yourself or for other people. And we teach, if you want to learn how to do it for other people, the only thing you need is to have an open heart and an open mind and a willingness to learn. And we train all kinds of people.
What are the other things that you have on your website that my audience could partake in?
We have a gift they can have about how to deal with anxiety. We describe everything. We have all of our certified practitioners. So if they want to find somebody, they can find everybody who's been trained by us. We've certified. Our online training is there, so they can get that. Videotapes, I mean, I give away, like I make all kinds of, I have my own podcast, and I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I have videotapes, and I have sessions I've done with people that they can see and see how I do these things remotely. I mean, and we have audio tapes, and they can get all of it. And if they want to learn how to do it, they can learn how to do it, and it's all there.
So your podcast, what is it about? Is it your teaching, or is it interviewing, or what?
It started off just being my teaching. So it's on the Heroes channel, which is a channel, and it's called, so all you have to do is go and say Andy Hahn, and the podcast is called Guided Self-Healing, Fearless Living. And I've done now about 60 of them, and they started off just being my teaching. But I've also done some demonstrations. So I do sessions, like if you said I want to do a session, and you said, I've done a couple of sessions with people. I was on their podcast. I said, I'd like to experience it. I said, as long as you know that the world's going to hear it, that's up to you. I'll do it with you. So then I've started to do some interviews also, but I'm just starting to do the interviews. So that's what the podcast is.
So who would you interview?
I'd interview you.
You would?
No. Of course. I'd interview.
I'd have to talk about my flaw.
Good. Well, that'll be okay. We're going to interview the person who wrote our one of our introductions, who is Andrew Weil's collaborator. So Andrew Wild does all this thing on integrative healing, and the woman who's there, wrote our introduction, and some fairly famous people in trauma, and somebody who wrote an amazing book on maturity we've interviewed, and I mean,
Yeah.
Whoever. I just like to talk with people and say, let's talk about life. And,
Talk about life.
Talk about life. Talk about second winds.
Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but something I always like to ask my guests is a question. Are you willing? Are you open?
I'm open to anything.
It's
if you're open to ask it. Well,
because you can create it. You can answer it. What is the most successful thing that you've done? That you treasure the most? Okay.
Every time I sit with somebody and like they heal and grow a little bit and become freer, that's the most successful thing I've done. The hardest person I've done it with is me. And I sure, because what I found is, it's an ongoing adventure. And as Joni says, it's like climbing a mountain. And the higher up you get, it's like you say, I've been doing this forever. And like, why, I've been doing this for 30 years. And, people get these miraculous results because sometimes people get things that look like the things I tell you. But once you start working on the things that are your most, we call them fixations, or, where your deepest stuck places because they are ways of, and your deepest fears like non-existence, or sort of like the deepest fears of unlovability that don't come out of life experience, but just come out of a sense of limitation, or my compulsions to connect, or my deepest needs for approval, because the Enneagram, I'm a heart point in the Enneagram, so all heart points want to be approved of. So it's sort of like gaining understanding and helping people with that understanding, really go on their own empowering adventure and learn that they can heal themselves, and then trying to do it, to do it for myself and to train other people to do it. It's like, it's why I'm here. You took it away from me. I guess it would still be why I was here. So, but that's why I wake up every morning and I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world.
That's great.
So
what a great way to end.
Well,
thank you.
What's
Andy.
yours?
What's mine?
Yeah.
Well, I would say one of the best successes that I've discovered about myself is that I'm always learning. I'm always moving. And I am proud of that because it keeps me viable. It keeps me fresh. It keeps me open. And so I'd say that's probably one of the best things I like about myself.
And you certainly are very fresh. And I mean that in the best way.
Thank you. All right. I wish you the best. And I'm going to take a minute just to say a few words to my audience. But thank you, Andy, for being here today. Now, I always like for you, my dear listeners, to share the knowledge that you've received today through Andy's words. Now, honestly, some of those statements he was talking about went over my head, but it's that you stay in the game. I mean, you got to keep learning. If you're curious about what he said, go to his website, which is what, Andy?
lifecenteredtherapy.com. And believe me, if my words went over your head, it's because I was speaking too high.
Well, there's always challenges there. So anyway, share this with your friend. Let them know there are different routes of affecting and changing the trauma that's alive in your life. Being open is very important. Find support in whatever you do. So thank you for being here. I look forward to having you next week. And I hope this week is full of some surprises for you. Have a great week. Thank you for being here.
Joyce Bufford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through Through the Joyce Bufford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.